Okay, we're going to start on the... Yeah, I had to say it in that kind of loud voice.
We're awake now.
Yes. We are going to start with the next session, which is being presented by Joan Kolaric. And this is about visualizing and sharing multi-platform library analytics with Tableau. More and more libraries are either using Tableau or ClickView, so this is quite useful session to see in that viewpoint. And I'm sure we can understand some of these and how they can be transferred into other products as well. So, thank you.
Hello. I guess I'm on. My name is Joan Kolaric, in fact, and I'm going to talk about Tableau, as we said, and library analytics. You might have noticed during the previous sessions in IGeLU the word Tableau coming up occasionally. And while it is well known in the United States, I haven't really gotten an impression that it's widely known in the rest of the world. There's some pockets of Tableau knowledge. So I thought I'd start with a show of hands. Who here is doing analytics? Anybody working with analytics? Okay, maybe half the room. And who here has already used Tableau? Wow, well, I think we could get that on one or on two hands, maybe one. So that's, I hope after today you guys will be very curious and looking for a fun new toy, because all the best software is a toy. So first I'm going to talk a little bit more about who I am and where I come from, but basically we're going to talk about Tableau, what's in it for us, why do we care, try and do a little tour of how Tableau works, and then talk a little bit about how Tableau can be used to collaborate, in collaboration and sharing content among libraries. And then there's a section at the end with references, you know, all the good stuff. So I am now working at the Weizmann Institute of Science in Rehovot, Israel. I'm very new there. I started in June. So I'm just starting to feel my way in identifying the needs at my new place, the analytics needs there. Before that, I was about a year and a half at CUNY, which is the City University of New York in New York City. And before that, I worked for Ex Libris for about 8 years. And who cares about anything older than that, right? But because of my work at Ex Libris, I've had the privilege of being able to use most of, I think I can say most of the products, although now there's a couple new ones in the last year, so it's a little harder, but I've worked with Aleph, MetaLib, Primo, SFX, and Alma. I've had training in a couple others, so I feel that I have a fairly broad understanding that's extremely helpful in especially moving into Alma as products are being unified. And I've also had the opportunity to work in what used to be most of the offices. I worked in Chicago, Singapore, Jerusalem, and Boston when I worked for Ex Libris. And now, as I said, I'm working at the Weizmann Institute of Science. There's words up there. You can read them if you want. There's a link if you want to learn more about Weizmann. But that's enough. Although it is a wonderful place to work, I am very happy. And I just thought I'd mention a shout out to our local user group called MELI, the Ex Libris users in Israel. Everyone from Israel, almost everyone, has now left the room. So it's pretty entertaining that I'm giving my presentation after the whole cohort is left. So Tableau, why do we care? What is in it for us? You've probably figured out that it has something to do with analytics. And if we quote the website and sales materials, Tableau helps people see and understand data. It's groundbreaking data visualization software. Instantaneous insight, I like that. And for anybody who wants to go and look at my presentation once it gets uploaded to IGeLU, I included a short video. It's a sales video. But more importantly, we have Dilbert saying something about data. I was so grateful that that came before my presentation. Should I leave it up there another minute? Anybody? But why should we use Tableau in the libraries? Well, query, blend, explore data, understand data, you know, these are all things that we need to do to serve our users and our audience as best possible. And Tableau is able to handle all sorts of data sets, be they large or small, and it can even blend data from different sources. And this is actually a major reason of why I'm up here talking about Tableau, because from what we've heard from all the libraries that we've been talking to, it seems like many, many libraries have the need for a place to put data that contains more than just Alma data or more than just Primo data. What about historical data? What about other sources? And I'll get into that on another slide. So that's why Tableau. It lets you create what it calls your own visualization, which can be made up of graphs, dashboards, and stories, which are kind of interactive dashboards, you could say, I guess. And you can empower your local users because while really it's very powerful and there's a lot to learn, it's got an reasonably easy learning curve, and you can just put it out there and people can start using it. Even I use it. And so it makes data more accessible, and by doing that, we can help improve communications with our communities that we serve. So as preparation for my presentation, I did a survey of all the Tableau sites that I could find, all the shared Tableau visualizations, and summarized on this slide what it was that I saw libraries doing. And we're going to talk in another minute about the fact that there's a public face to Tableau and there's also a private face to Tableau. So I'm only looking here, this is a very skewed view because I'm only looking here at visualizations that people are sharing publicly. But still, look at all the stuff they're doing, collection analysis, analyzing expenditures, acquisitions, and all that, including e-resource costs. They're bringing in they're bringing in data from Easy Proxy, Use Status, Effects, Alma to do that analysis. There's even one school, I think it was in Michigan, where they went and picked up all of the ARL data since like 1965 or something, and put it together as a visualization to compare their school's function, their school's place in ranking against all the other schools. So people are doing some pretty wild things with it. And of course, library services, gate count will not be in Alma or Primo. LibGuides, LibAnswers, there's a lot of stuff here that we need a place to bring in that data. Oh, and the last but not least one down here at the bottom, Laura Murray, and I'm forgetting where she is right now, SUNY. Anyway, not important, but she has a private, somebody told me about a private, a local Tableau installation where they've brought in interlibrary loan and circulation use to try and correlate it to student GPAs to demonstrate the contribution of the library to student success. So how is Tableau available? There are basically three categories of versions, and Tableau Public is the one that's free. It includes the ability to bring in some basic data sources, get to that in a minute, and it provides free storage, but the reason all this is free is because everything you do there, it's kind of expected that it will be public. You can do stuff and take it down immediately. But it is hosted on a public web server. There's also a version called Personal, which it also has the same basic data sources, but it lets you save your work privately. So you don't even have to touch that public server at all. You can do all your work on your local computer. So there's an additional level of privacy there. And by the way, it is free for people who are teaching with it or in a class about it. So students and instructors at accredited academic institutions can use the personal version for free. At Weitzman, we've subscribed to the personal level because, as I said, we're just kind of deciding which way we want to go. There's also a professional version, which, when I say full data sources, next slide, but it's a huge list of data sources that can be integrated with Tableau. And they expect the professional version to work opposite a server, a non-public server. So it would be either a hosted server that's not public, or a local server that you can keep in your own organization. So private, local, hosted data. And it can be enterprise-wide deployment. And there seems to be a bunch of universities, at least in the United States, that are doing this, because wandering around and looking at university websites, I saw more than, I think I would go as far as several, let's say, that have pages on their university sites saying, come and use Tableau, come, download Tableau, and it seems to be a campus-wide initiative. So that's an interesting direction. So the tools that come with Tableau. So I mentioned already there's basic data sources and a full version of the data sources. The basic grouping is pretty useful because you can bring in anything from an Excel file, a text file, an Access database, and SAS, SPSS, and R, which that's pretty cool. I mean, a lot of our scientific staff at the Weizmann Institute use those tools. There's also OData and something called web data connectors, which more about that later, but that's an interesting point for the Ex Libris world, I hope. In addition, there's as I mentioned, there's the professional version, which has the full set of data sources, and that includes everything that I just said, plus connections to Google Analytics, SQL Server, MySQL, Oracle databases, Salesforce, and I've only just given you a tiny taste of what's available, over 35 other connections. So anybody who's really serious about data analysis can go pretty far with this tool. What you can do once you've created a data visualization in Tableau, one of the important things about it, and I'll be expanding on this topic later, is that you can save your work in something called a workbook file. And it's a file extension TWBX. And it can be, this file format can be saved from any of the desktops except for the public one, because the public free one only saves to the web, nothing else. But once you've saved your visualization to the web, anybody can come to your public visualization and download your TWBX. And what's in there is your entire visualization, all of your data and your template. So if you want to go public, you really have to be sure you want to be public about it, because all your data can be downloaded if you allow that. But what's very cool about this is that makes it really easy to share, because you can go and say, oh my, I really like what so-and-so did there, and download their template, and in various ways you can quite easily copy it. And I've learned a lot from looking at other people's templates, TWBXs. And last but not least, there's a reader, which if you have a TWBX file, it's free like Acrobat, it's free like Acrobat. And you can tell somebody to go and download the reader and send them a link to the TWBX location, and they can see your visualization. So that's a very nice way to share as well. It's just like Acrobat. You don't change anything, or at least basic Acrobat. Can't change anything. It just lets you view a visualization that someone else has built, or you've built somewhere else. So just a couple last words about the free version. It's quite large. It can handle quite a lot of data. It can handle data sets up to 10 million rows, and I can tell you that when I was working at CUNY, I was downloading it was the Z35 loans and the circulation information out of the Z35 table for anybody who knows Aleph. And CUNY had 10 years of information, and downloading all of those rows, that was about 8 million records. So 10 million rows, records can be a lot of data. That's, 10 years is quite a lot, and we still had room to grow. And so that's the limitations, that there's also a storage limit up to 10 gigabytes. And on the flip side, this is not a limitation. You can go in and prevent people from downloading your templates. I've just been saying, you know, you have to be careful. People can see your data, et cetera, et cetera. There is a way to do that, but it's, you know, some extra steps, and it's easy to accidentally click to turn on or turn off. I've seen people do that, so it's not the most secure way to publicize your visualizations. But it is possible to keep these free workbooks more or less proprietary. In addition to these other tools, Tableau has an API of its own. I haven't done much of anything with it, but I just threw it in here in case anybody wanted to go and look at it and what they do here. Again, I'm more interested in what's called web connectors from Ex Libris point of view. But you can integrate the visualizations into your websites, for example, with the JavaScript API. So now comes the hard part, where I have to try and look intelligent while I walk through Tableau with you guys, because I hope you're kind of wondering, what does this tool look like at this point? And so this is I've opened up the Tableau desktop, and just all of their products, if I didn't say it already, they all have a desktop version, and the public one is pretty complete. You can do almost anything in it. I'll mention a few things later that you can't, but except for the fact that you can't save locally. But almost all of the visualization functionality, I believe, is available there. So here I could open an Excel file or a text file and build something. Or I could even, and let's hope this opens quickly. Nope, I want it with Notepad. You can even just start out, oh, that's nasty. Should have looked at my file before I opened it. You can even go and grab some data. This is Z36H from Aleph. And I'm just going to grab a bunch of it and copy it. And I can go into Tableau and paste data, crossing our fingers here. And I didn't even connect to a file. I'm just pasting something I copied out of a text file. And it's processing it and identifying the fields and different measures and so on. And once we've done this, we can just move ahead with trying some other things. Oh dear, oh well, that's how it works when you try and do something live. Isn't it nice that it's a real world out there? So let's try opening. Just any old one. I could start for some raw data, but I suppose I'm just being lazy here. This is what we should have seen, something like this anyway. It's different data. It should have populated this screen here, where Tableau has tried to identify what the data is in the various columns. What I was trying to add in didn't have field headings, but it really wouldn't matter. It would have been identifying things as dates or strings or numbers and so on. But here we have some Z36H circulation history information from Aleph, and we can see that it's got labeled columns already. And it's identified this is numbers, and this is numbers, and that is numbers, and that is numbers, and that is a date. So given that, we can now go to another screen and look at some of how Tableau looks. And immediately you see that there's some field names over here, presumably. Hopefully it's readable in the front anyway. And this says loan transactions, OPAC transactions, and so on. actually wanting to, let me find another file. This is where working without a net is always fun. Let's go. I lost my file. Let's open that one, just so we can see an empty interface. So this is a file that was not what I'd opened before, was in fact a TWBX file. This is just some data, and it's struggling with this first column because it thinks it's a number when it's actually a very long timestamp. And just for the ease of definition, I'm going to call it a string, so it'll stop putting commas in there. This one it has correctly identified as a date, and here we have two text files, fields. And again, Aleph World, you might recognize this as a library. F3 is a library or a sublibrary, and F4 is renew, request, and so on. That's something that was defined in a SQL query that I did. So now I've got this data that I just brought in from a text file. What do I do with it? I can go to a nice empty field here, and try and figure out what I've got. So my F2, F3, and F4 not very well identified, so let's call this a date stamp. Oops, I didn't mean to hide that. But Tableau has a wonderful feature. Control-Z is life-saving. Rename, there we go. So let's call it a date stamp. And this was library, and this was, so it's, you can see it's very easy to go and change names and start working with the data. Whoops, library moved, that's the one I want. Event. And down here we've got a count, which I actually would be happy to just call count. Wait a minute. That says it's an ABC. That's not the one I want. I want this one, I think. Oh, all right. I remember now. There's no values. Sorry. Just remembering what my data, you have to know what your data looks like. I don't actually have any numbers here. This isn't counting anything. So what we'll be counting is the records. So F1 count is actually a count of the records. And you might wonder, what is a dimension? What is a measure? The way that Tableau explains it is that dimensions are usually fields that can't be aggregated. I'm reading here. Usually used for row or column headings. So library, event, that kind of makes sense. And measures are fields that can be measured, aggregated, or used for math operations, usually used for plotting or setting a marker size, for example, an integer or a decimal. And so that makes sense that my count down here is, can't figure out why it's a string, but anyway. Oh, number of records will do. Number of records is a measure. And so I could, for example, say I want to see library events. It's put up the library events that it found. It's given me the unique library events. But here it says ABC. Why? Because it doesn't have anything to count. And I just dragged and dropped the number of records, and now we see next to this a table showing the number of records in this file for each of those events. See, now I already showed you how to change a data type. Let's see if I can try to get this right. I can create a field from this date stamp. I can create a calculated field, and let's see if I can do this right. And we can call it year. And date parse date stamp parentheses. And is it going to like that? No, it contains errors. Oh, I forgot my format. I don't remember if I have to tell it the whole length, and the format goes on the other side. Format. Oh, still upset about that. What I think I need here is a substring. Let's see if I can do a substring. Not there.
Got that square brace on the wrong side of the format.
I do, you're right. Thank you. I love being heckled. Isn't gonna handle that. No, I think it means it needs a substring, and I forgot to look up how to do a substring. So I'll have to, oh, did I tell it this was a, oh, I told it was a date. I didn't mean to tell it was a date. I meant to tell it was a string. Look at that. It's told me that I'm working on a date and on a date, and I want it to be a string. So I'm going down here to change data type, and I'm making that a string. Notice I did that on the previous screen too, so I'm doing it again. And once I make it a string, then my parsing is going to work. And so now I've got a year value, and God knows what it holds, but anyway. But that's something you can do. You can do it better than I did it just there, but you can create fields with basically, you can create formulas and use functions to create different forms of content in calculated fields. So let's do it by library here, since oh dear, that's got an awful lot of libraries the long way, so I'm going to switch event and library, and now I've got a much more readable table showing the number of each of those. And right now it's just giving me a table, which seems pretty boring since I promised you data visualizations, right? But there's this whole section over here that tells me, for the data that I have, what other types of visualizations are available. And one of them would be a bar chart. So let's see what happens if I click on that, and boom, I've got a bar chart. And what if I wanted to, no, that'll be too many. Let's drag the events to this color tab right here. And now I've got per library how much of each of the populations in this file, how much is, where's my legend? Just a second. There's my legend. So how many, here's the loans, here's the renews, here's the returns, and so on. So it's getting more interesting. One of the hardest things about Tableau is thinking about what it is you're trying to achieve and what it is that's going to be helpful, and figuring out a way to express that. So that tends to take quite a while. While we're doing this, we could, in addition to having an event, we could also have a filter by, let's just do event for the heck of it. So I just dragged and dropped event into the filter section. It's asked me if I want to use all of those events. I could just say I want to use only 2, 1, whatever, but I do want all of them. And now I can show the filter. So over here, I've now got a filter in addition to a legend. And now I can say, okay, I want to just see loans. I just want to compare the loans at the various libraries, or I want to see only the renewals, and so forth. So I have to try not to get lost, because it's fun to play with. It's like, let's see what happens if I do this. So this is some very basic functionality right here, and I should actually be mindful of time. Because I'm in the non-free version, I can go here to File, and I have lots of fun options, like I can print this to a PDF if I've got some wonderful, if it was more wonderful than this. Or I can save it, and I can save it as one of those TWBX files that I mentioned. It just saved, I didn't do save as, so it wasn't as interactive as one would have hoped, but I can save it as a TWBX or various other formats. There's a whole lot in the functionality here I could show you, but I don't, like I said, I don't want to get drawn in too far. Just one other feature that's available in the paid, the paid desktop is wait a minute, I gotta remember where it is. Right, okay. In Worksheet, I can go and I can do export image and show just, and save just the image of this data, or I can export the data itself. It will be processed by Tableau, so it will include any calculated fields that I might have made and so on. So there's a lot of different options that are available in the paid desktop, that the PDF, the image, that's the TWBX. You can't do any of that in the free version. In the free version, all you can do is what it's in a different place, but it's basically this. I can save it to Tableau Public, and I can save this to Tableau Public too, and then it will go up on a website. And I can demonstrate that very briefly. Where did I put it? There. So this is a dashboard that I created while I was at CUNY, and I have the saved TWBX. It's also up on the internet. There's been an upgrade, so it's telling me that it's going to be upgraded, the file. And I have here a file, that's a dashboard, and we can also go to the web and see that same file on their dashboard. Didn't open that up, did I? So we'll get there eventually. This is the CUNY OLS. This is free, open. Anybody can go on their computer and find it as well. And here's that a version of that dashboard that they saved. I, of course, would not be able to save on top of it since I don't work there anymore. But this is a version of a dashboard created in Tableau, saved to the web in the public version. This was entirely free, everything that I did here. So just so you get an idea, it's 4 different charts. You can filter on, this one chart can be filtered by vendor, and the entire thing can be filtered, for example, to show only the information in these charts about the senior colleges at CUNY, because they have community colleges and senior colleges and so on and so forth. So it's very interactive as well. But let's go back to the PowerPoint slides. So I went over some of this. Probably didn't get to all of it because I'm feeling like I'm going to run over time. Some Tableau lessons learned about the data structure that's required is that you'll get the most out of Tableau if you save your data with each line being a data point. For example, the Z36H, each line was a separate data point. So it just makes it the most flexible. You can do unions, so you can combine if you have 2 different files, one of which has your SFX information for the last 10 years, and the other one has your uResolver information that you just took out of Alma. You'd be able to import that and match it up, do a union inside Tableau to display it together. One little lesson learned on my part was I was tidying up one day and I clicked the trash can on the Tableau Public and lost an old version of a visualization that I hadn't really been meaning to throw away, but it was the free public version, and that was the only copy. So when I deleted it, it was gone. There's no backup. So it's really easy to delete visualizations as well as to save them. I put some information here about data cleanup and structures here, and this is the link to the OLS dashboard that I was just showing you. And if you'd like to see a little error that I wish I could go back and clean up right now, when I saved this data down here, this Academic Works growth, Academic Works is CUNY's digital repository, and that's actually, oh, it's too big there. That's pretty impressive growth. I feel we can say that. It was about a year old at this point. But what I did in the data is I saved each month that I went in and saved the data, I saved how many records were in Academic Works at that time. Now, if I had simply saved the delta in this table, and so January, February, the number added, Tableau has a feature that I could have done a running total and done exactly the same chart out of that delta information. And when I did it, I didn't think about wanting that, so I didn't do that. So this is, each month is the current total. But later I went and added this little place up here that shows you the current count. And for the total Academic Works items, I had to cheat and just put the last month's value because of that, because of the fact that I hadn't saved the delta each month, because Tableau was going and adding up the running total for me, and it was getting really huge because it was 15 months times the total anyway. So it matters how you save it, how you construct the data and what you do with it. And you know, if I was rebuilding this now, I would go back and make it better. And there's probably a way to get around that other problem too, but I didn't get to that before I left. I have to share it with my colleagues. I only just figured it out recently. So I just thought I'd talk a little, just to give a very specific example, I thought I'd talk a little bit about how I created this, pointing will not do, this Aleph OneSearch information, because it starts in July 2014. I don't know if you can see that down at the bottom. And we had started using Google Analytics in April 2015. And anybody who's used Google Analytics knows that Google Analytics only starts from whenever you started. There is no such thing as historical data there. So how did we go back and get the 2014 data? Well, we went and picked up the Z69 data out of Aleph. Anybody knows that? And at the time, it was pre-OBI, so we went and picked up the Primo data out of the Primo searches report in Primo. And unfortunately, that means that we were using 3 different types of sessions, because Aleph Z69 has its type of session, and Google Analytics has its definition of session, and Primo has its definition of sessions too. So there's a bit of apples and oranges there, but since that was all we had, we figured better to have historical information, and it's close. And this is an example of query that I did. I did not include the Z69 client address so that we wouldn't have the IP addresses of people who were searching in the data. But there's actually, this table only shows 2014. We could have gone back to 2006, and in another table I actually have that to show Aleph search history. And I feel that's actually something that's worthy of mention. I don't hear a lot of people talking about what they're doing with their historic data when they move to Alma. How are they preserving that? Are you guys even thinking about it? I'm not really sure what we're going to do, but it seems a shame to lose such a rich history of data. And I'm sure it's not all being transferred to Alma. But moving on. And for Primo, we went and we did this Primo report, new annual search statistics, but it was horribly painful because CUNY has 20 different schools, and I had to go one by one into each view and do that same report over and over again. It was not going to be a viable model, and so I was happy to move to Google Analytics at that point. OBI came around later, and it turns out that OBI doesn't have that same problem. You can go in and you can actually get session data out of OBI for Primo. It's pretty similar to Google Analytics. Not exact, but what would be. And you can schedule the report, and so you don't have to go in and do the same painful work. It's a big improvement over the old version. And it also includes retrospective data. The version that CUNY had, even though I was working in some place in early 2015, it had information back to 2014. And in addition to that, we had activated, as I said, Google Analytics, and we went and we grabbed session data from there. And I throw this in because it might be interesting to anybody who works at a school with a lot of different libraries or views in Primo. We wanted to get, there was, basically the rule was there's no point in getting the data out if we can't report by school, because everybody wants to know what their data is. And you know, out of the box, that's not in Google Analytics, it doesn't know what our schools are. So we did something, we used content grouping in Google Analytics, and this is how you can get to it. That's the path here, if anybody's interested in doing it. And we used regex to extract the, for Primo, the view data, and for Aleph, the library data, out of the URL. And this is indeed what the screen looks like to create those groups. And so you see up the top, it says school. And here, what's written here is exactly the same thing that's written here. This is just, you know, bigger. And you need to do two of them because there's some queries in Aleph that are on library and there's some queries that are on ADM. Anyway, and over here, this is the regex. The regex for Primo is really easy. VID equals ... You can't get worse than that, or better than that. But in that way, we were able to get our reports out of Primo and Aleph by school without any further intervention. The one downside of that is that it only, just like Google Analytics, it's only available from when you define it. So if you want to go and get this, this grouping done, it's only going to start the day, you know, from the day that you define it. Otherwise, you'll have to go back and do it manually in a report. We also grabbed some SFX data. Oh, I'm talking too long. I won't go into that. It's boring after all. Manipulated that. So I need to get on to the important part of this, which is collaboration. And there's a lot of information here, so whatever I don't get to cover, you know, people can go. But very basically, you can go into Tableau. Whoops, wrong one. And
I'm sorry, Joan, you're over time. We have to move.
Oh, I haven't been looking?
No,
okay, I'm so sorry.
that's okay.
I just wanted to say you can download the template. All right, 2 minutes. You can download the template. This tells you how to do it, and you can use the template, and if whoever's built a template gives you their logic, you can grab the same data and put it all together in a package, and boom, you've got almost exactly the same visualization, except it's got your data in it. Oh, I didn't get to talk about web connectors. It turns out that there's something called web connectors in Tableau, and we're really hoping that we can either work with the local community or Ex Libris to write a web connector that will grab the XML or the JSON data from the APIs, from the Primo and Alma APIs, and make that available to us too. Very quickly, we have something called a support group for Tableau and Ex Libris users. The links here there are links here to our recorded meetings. If anybody wants to join in on that, we're hoping to do the 5th one at the bottom in October as part of the special interest group's show and tell. And last but not least here, there's a list, and we don't have to dwell on that, of all the libraries that I could find that are using Tableau in the public interface. And then there's just some references, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Joan. Just because we've run over time, I think Joan will be here so you can ask her questions at any time. And we also have a break at the end, basically, which is goodbye coffee, and you can also grab her for questions at that time. We have Christine, if you would like to come in, with Rich as well, who are going to talk about a scanning system extending a scanning system, to be honest with, at MIT, which I'm quite looking forward to. It's an Aleph presentation as well. And for the reasons of equality, I should also say an award winner is being presenting now as well, just to make sure, because I'm talking about everyone else's award winner. Christine is also the Israel Morag Award winner, so.
Get my notes out. Go ahead.
No mouse. We don't have a mouse? I guess not.
Here's the touchpad.
It'll just be easier, so.
Yep. Okay. Tell me if you can see me over the laptop.
We can do this. It's probably easier this way. Does this work? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So, several years ago, I think it was about 5. It might actually even be close to 10 years at this point. I didn't go back and look up the date. We implemented an article scanning request service where users could go into the print holdings in our Aleph OPAC and request a scan of journal articles or a book chapter. At the time, we did that only from our storage location, which is we have an on-campus storage annex, which is just at the edge of campus in Cambridge, and then we have a larger facility that we share with Harvard, or Harvard shares with us, really, where we have a lot more materials that we can request to have delivered to campus the next day, and they would scan from those. Neither of those places are very convenient for a user to actually go and get the journal, the printed journal volume to read. So let's see, let me go to a slide here. We used the Aleph service SFX to talk between the OPAC interface and the Aleph server to get some information in order to send over to SFX. We sent an open URL over to SFX with Iliad as the target. Iliad is our document delivery service where we do the scanning and present the PDF files to the users. So then SFX would talk to Iliad, and as far as the technology went, that was pretty much the end point of the original service. Once the request got into Iliad, staff in the storage annex would see the request in Iliad, walk out to their shelves, get the volume, scan the article, and present it to the user through Iliad. So this year, we were asked to expand that service. We did a user survey last fall with about 10 options. We were considering doing different things for our users. We said, if you had $100, where would you put the money to do one of these 10 services, or how would you split it up? And by far, the most desired service by our users was to expand this scanning service to all campus libraries. So we decided to do that this year. We worked on it this last spring and turned it on over the summer. That service looks a little more like this. The user still gets into the Aleph OPAC. They can also have started their search in our EDS discovery or in WorldCat. At the moment, all of those land the user on the Aleph request screen. So they're in the OPAC, which makes a call to the Aleph server for reasons that Rich will explain in a few minutes. We're no longer using the service SFX, but we are doing an AJAX call over to Aleph. Oops. Messing up my notes here. Then we send an open URL over to SFX in a slightly different way than we used to. We're passing more information through than we did in the past. SFX talks to Iliad. the staff in the storage annex gets that request. But those requests might be coming for materials that are anywhere on campus. So they need to, if the book isn't in their own stacks, they need to get the book or tell the staff at the other libraries around campus that they need to send the book over to the storage annex to be scanned. One of the reasons we kept the scanning central in the storage annex instead of setting up scanners around campus was that when we proposed expanding this service, we had a pending renovation and we didn't want to set up a big new scanning unit and then have to move it or find someplace else to deal with it or scrap the service temporarily. So we decided to just keep the scanning where we have it set up for now and start the expanded service this way. So they've got a request sitting in ILLiad, and they need to say, you know, hey, staff in the humanities library, send this volume over to us. And we needed a way to do that. So we need ILLiad to talk back to Aleph, which was not happening before. So we did that by adding, by coding an add-on to ILLiad, which is a feature that's built into that service. We tried various options for different kinds of ILLiad add-ons. What we ended up doing was one that will run an OPAC search. It's got an embedded web browser and show the staff our print and electronic holdings just to make sure that the volume that the user asked for really is something that we have, and also that we only have it in print. If we have it electronically, they'll send the user the URL to just go get it themselves. And unless, that's what they will do. If the user says, well, I'm looking for a higher quality or some pages are missing from the particular interface you guys have access to, they might scan the print article for them. But normally it's just that the user missed it. So once they've verified they've got the right volume, then there's another button in the ILLiad add-on which will send an Aleph hold request, which the patron for that is the storage annex pseudo patron, and we set that up for office delivery. So when the request is pulled from the shelves and scanned to activate the request, it's automatically loaned to the storage annex, and then they put it in a box and send it across campus, usually a couple of hours later. I think that's most of it, and Rich is going to talk about some more of the technical details between some of the system interactions.
I feel like we should have given you a trigger warning that this presentation has absolutely nothing whatever to do with Primo or Alma. So. And this may be the shortest slide deck we've ever, either of us have ever used. It's the two slides you've seen plus the opening and the closing. So I'm going to back up and step through a couple of things on these two slides. Where's my, there it is. Right, this is the before.
We don't have anything, oh, there it is, okay.
Good. The old way of doing things, and this service call that you can call into the Aleph server from the OPAC or from wherever. The reason we use that is that it's there and it works, and in general we try to use existing built-in services where we reasonably can, and this was one of them. It's there, and if you use it, it builds an open URL and sends it to your SFX system. And I didn't put all of the parameters here, but this gives you an idea of what it looks like. And of course, the record that you're trying to send is identified by the doc number. That does go over, it creates an open URL and goes over, and are you able to, are we not seeing that?
No.
Wow, that is really weird. Well, in that case, the presentation just got shorter. So I'm opening documents here, but you're not seeing any of it. I don't know why, but it doesn't really matter. The open URL goes over and it's got some number of fields of metadata. And for reasons that we don't need to get into here, it has the doc number and also the IP address of your Aleph server and a few other things. And that, what did I just do? Yeah, and that went off to Iliad and, oops.
Want me to help you?
Sure. Let me just, why did I lose my cursor? Why am I back in, oh, I see, we came out of present mode. So let me try to open one of the documents and let's see. No need to spend a lot of time if you don't need to.
All right, you can try.
Okay. Okay, and no big deal here. There's a bunch of metadata that gets handed off to Iliad. A bunch of that works out of the box, but we do have some additions to the Iliad parser in SFX, ddl.pm, for those of you who have been into the target parsers. So that was the old way of doing things. One of the things I want to just make sure you understand is that this AJAX call is just a simple script, not a big deal, but we needed to get the doc number. Why did we need to do that when we didn't before? We needed to, for the new system, we needed to add some metadata to the open URL. We wanted to add a location parameter. We wanted to add a barcode. And there isn't any way with the SFX service in the Aleph server to tell it to add other fields. It just builds what it builds and it sends it. So we have to send the URL from the OPAC out of JavaScript. We're no longer able to send the, where did my cursor go? In the old way, the URL is being sent down here. Now we're creating it in JavaScript up here. And just to prove that I'm not lying, here are the extra fields that we're encoding on it. That goes over to SFX, and it's worth pointing out that whenever we get one of these calls through SFX, we do check if we've got electronic access, full text access to it. And if we do, we put up an SFX menu. If we don't, you go straight to Iliad. But if we do, you get a screen, something like this, that still gives you the option if you really do want the PDF instead. But we're hoping that many people will discover that we can get there online and not need to bother with this. Over to Iliad, and again, here are those extra parameters that we're passing through. And we've got probably a really hard to see screenshot out of the add-on in Iliad. Can we make this bigger? Where's our plus sign? Do you see it? Yeah. Oops.
Okay.
Rich and Christine, which one of you programs in Lua?
I did the Iliad add-on. Yeah.
This is in Iliad, the add-on. Having done the Barton search that you saw before, that's also down here on this page to make sure that we can see the right holdings are being talked about and so forth. And do you want to explain about what's not here so that we can?
Sure. Well, one of the reasons we're now passing the barcode across from Aleph through SFX to this process is we wanted to make sure that we had a unique identifier to definitely bring up the exact record that the user had started on in the first place. What our staff were doing with the old process in order to verify the holdings were retyping the title into a keyword search, and very often then having to scroll through at least one page of results to get to the right thing that the user wanted. We've got the barcode, we've got an index on our item barcodes, and it brought them to this item here. There should be, next to this search button here, there should be another button that says place hold, and it'll activate the API script that we wrote to do this. When I took this screenshot, I was in our ILLiad testing queue, and using the production add-on script, which doesn't show the hold button if you're not in the production queue. And the production queue had nothing waiting to be scanned. So I couldn't get a screenshot of one that had the hold button active. So the ILLiad script is very sensitive to, are you in the right workflow for this add-on to do anything? Otherwise, the options don't show up for you.
Anything else you? Other than that, this Aleph place hold just hits a small script that drives a REST API.
Right.
Very simple.
I did want to mention, we looked at different possible APIs we could have used here. Aleph has a few different options you can use to place a hold. One of the things we wanted to pass through was the volume and year information that the user had put into their request. While that information is in Aleph, it's possible that the item information that they clicked the request button next to wasn't really for the volume that they wanted. They might have just clicked the first one in the list to get the request through quickly, and then put in different information in ILLiad. So we're passing back to Aleph through the request, author, title, and notes fields, which volume the user typed in that they wanted. And the only API service that can pass that information back through on a hold request is the REST API. The X server, I can't remember if that only takes one or two parameters and just does what it wants with it. The other thing we looked at was NSIP, which also takes like only the item identifier, and you can't pass it any additional information. We already had a web form and API stuff already working to quickly implement NSIP, and it turned out not to work here. So we had to write up this add-on and the additional script to use the REST API. So I think that's it.
Thank you very much. We have time for questions. Anyone has a question? Yeah?
I have a quick question. In your diagram there, you had an OPAC. Is your OPAC homegrown, like, or do you use blacklight, or?
No, it's the Aleph OPAC.
Aleph
It's
OPAC.
heavily modified, but it
Okay.
doesn't have blacklight or something on top of it. So.
Okay, thanks.
Right. We were just making a distinction between the user interface versus calls that ran on the server side. That was with the two boxes for Aleph versus OPAC.
Hi. I was wondering, you are using the web OPAC for Aleph, and you are transferring always the patron to SFX. Did you consider the option to check before if there is a full text target in SFX, and if not, immediately go to ILLiad?
No,
Well, if there's not full text, they do go straight through to ILLiad.
but they go through SFX on the way to ILLiad.
Yeah.
But the user doesn't necessarily see the menu.
Right. No, we didn't. That would be doable. This infrastructure through SFX was already in place, and we simply added on to what was already there. There are a couple other things that could be done slightly more straightforwardly or more efficiently, not worth getting into here, but you're right. There are other approaches that if there were no prior history, you might do them slightly differently.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? In which case, I'll do shameless self-promotion and say, if you ever move to Primo, speak to Bordian, because I developed a similar system for them.
Thank you.
Done.
Thank you. If you can give applause one more time. Right, and next we have Cindy, who would be talking about the red-green system at Yale University.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Cindy Greenspan from Yale University, and before I get started, I'd like to tell you about the library I work in. We have about 20 libraries on campus, 15 million books. Some libraries are restricted special collection libraries where you need to be a registered Yale user in order to gain access to those materials. They do not circulate out of those libraries. There are some libraries like OpenStax. You can go in and take a look at those materials, but you cannot take those materials out of the library. And then there's the rest of us that are circulating collections. You can walk in and check out a book and then walk out of the library. There are 2 libraries on campus that have a security exit point. So in order to leave the building, you need to go through security guard system and alarm system. But if you have library materials, they need to be examined by a security guard. So the library that had the security system, it looked like a church. It had the nave had huge high ceilings. The light is very dim, and in order to see the due date on for each item that's been taken out of the building, you need to take out the slip, match the barcode of the due date slip to make sure that it matches, and then go from there. So we found out that Harvard had the same situation where they have a security checkpoint in order to get out of the library. These cause problems, cause backlog, long lines, a long wait to get out of the building. Usually I'd find myself waiting ahead of another person that I see has holding 25 books just so I can get out. And sometimes there would be a 5-minute wait to get out of the building. And 2 managers from Harvard and from Yale got together one night and realized that they had the same problem and decided to do something about it. The manager from Yale put together a team of people to talk about what it is that they can do to circumvent this problem, make an improvement. And we decided that we can create an interface that is similar to a traffic light, red or green. Red, this material cannot leave the building. Green, it's okay for these materials to leave the building. The first thing we did was to come up with a list of specs. You can't? Maybe it's my, yeah. And it might be causing the interference. Let me turn it off. All right. This better. Sorry about that. So we came up with a list of what it is that we wanted out of the building. So obviously, an item that is charged out, renewed, can leave the building. The rest of these items, not charged out, in transit, discharged, and then a whole bunch of other items that we decided were not allowed out of the building. Then we narrowed down onto what patron groups, which is on the far left side, allowed to be able to take out library materials. As you can see, we have almost 50 patron groups. The ones with the green column are the ones that are allowed to take out materials. The ones on the right, red column, cannot take out materials. Then we took a look at the item type to determine what it is that were allowed out of the building and what's not allowed. We met with the programmer, and she came up with a simple interface program to enable that. But before we go on to the program, we reached out to different vendors and asked for samples of their product. So we borrowed different types of scanners, a Bluetooth scanner, the Motorola scanner, and we also put out iPads and laptops and just set up a open forum and asked all of the security guards to come into the room and experiment with all of these different equipment. We thought it was important for the security guards to be the one to make a decision on what material to use, and the winner, as you can see, is the Motorola DS9208. The next slide shows you a picture of 3 of our security checkpoints, and you can actually see a laptop and the white Motorola scanner and security guards that were adding in barcode to each system. This is the interface of the item tracker. As soon as you turn on or open the program, you need to select which security point you're working at, and then the next screen shows you a simple entry point where you can just run in a barcode through the scanner. Then it gives you 2 answers and what to do with that item. Stop, no, or yes, you can take that item out. We wanted it to be as simple, straightforward as possible. We explored with different ideas or approaches and how to provide an answer to the security guard. We explored with the idea of using sound. We explored the idea of using just text only, different formats, and we thought that following a traffic light symbol of red or green was the best idea to do it, just simple and straightforward. The programmer who created the interface shared her work with me so that I can share it with you. She wrote the program in a 3-tier architecture using JSP, JavaScript, and Ajax. So your presentation, Christine, was very helpful in understanding how Ajax works. It's a 3-tier architecture program broken down into 3: presentation, logic, or data. And there's an interchange of information going through, as you can see over here. So you run in the barcode, it sends in a clock, and it then verifies what it is that you need to do. And then it queries our database and then provides the result. This is a breakdown of the 3 layers. So the presentation tier would take in the barcode and then display the whether it's passed or not, and then a number of how many items. So a reader comes up to you with 20 books. We want to see the number 20 in the green go screen. The application tier, which is also called the logic tier, pulls out information from the presentation tier, that's the second one down, and help control this information and what to do. And then we have the data tier, which is the third one on the bottom. It's very handy to be able to pull out information or data and make decisions going forward. So this is a sample of the MySQL data, the output result, and then using Tableau, we threw together some statistics. You can see that a great majority of these items fall into the pass stream. About 5,000 items in this past year were not let out of the building. They were not sold out. Someone forgot that they had the book in their backpack, and we tried to scan it in, or it was a book that didn't belong in our collection, so we needed to do something with it. Usually the security guard, they would just send the reader right back to the circulation desk for problem solving. The yellow category are other books that are allowed out through the security system but does not really belong to Yale University, like interlibrary loan books or BioDirect books. Here's a nice breakdown by year to see how many items have gone through the pass system or not. It's interesting to see a decline in the number of circulating items going out. Here, the captive, the tick and width of the security checkpoint have the majority. So through the batch library, that's where most of our users are leaving the burden through. We have the Wall Street entrance, which has a very low number, so that helps us decide to close those doors at certain times, like during recess or during evening hours, and then we'll just have 2 security checkpoints open rather than 3. Again, a different view of barcode scans by location, this time by year, and then you can see the numbers. And then broken down by month and during the fiscal year, you can see a great increase for the month of April for 2013, which is actually very interesting, makes me wonder what happened during that year and that month. So I can, if you're interested in the code written for this program, feel free to reach out to me, or I will try to provide it in the PowerPoint before it gets uploaded. But thank you.
No, but I can, no? Okay, it's fine. Thank you very much, thank you. Yeah. Right, we have the last presentation of the day. Woohoo, we've made it. A lot of us have made it actually, which is quite a nice thing to see. And this one is from Lucas, and at least we will all be awake when Lucas speaks. That we can be sure of.
I hope I will stay awake.
Lucas is going to talk about a data management platform, a bit of his viewpoints on that, how Primo data can be ingested into that, and EAD data as well. So it's something quite interesting, actually. So let's look forward to this one.
Technical problem. Oh, and my slides are here somewhere, I guess. Okay, I will just start and say it's a funny feeling to be the last speaker of this whole conference and Developers Day. And don't worry, I'm not going to sing this time. Unlike the last speaker of yesterday, the closing keynote, and like Karsten said, be sure there are no rats or other animals harmed in the creation of this presentation. No cutting up of brains.
I don't know which one is that.
Oh wait, it's a PDF.
Oh, at the bottom.
Ah yes, I like PDF slides. Here we are, full screen. Yep. Thank you.
This is forward. This is backward.
I only go forward. I hope. Okay. Also, there, like Rich and Christina, I have to issue a warning. You have seen all kinds of interesting presentations about projects that have actually achieved something. In this case, I'm talking about a project that actually hasn't started yet. When I submitted this proposal, I was expecting that I would be somewhere halfway with our team. But you know, organizational circumstances, as I might call it, have prevented us to go anywhere beyond a preliminary stage. So I could just say, so we haven't done anything and just be gone and you could go home. But maybe, well, that wouldn't be completely true. But we did something. We did some thinking and testing. So, forward is this one. So, what is actually the problem that I'm trying to address? This is a slide from another presentation. You can see the link to that one here. It's about the whole library database, internal, external landscape of systems. You all know that CF systems, not only ex-Libris systems, but external systems, databases. We move data. I'm talking about data. Some people call it data or data, I heard here. And I mean actually what we usually call metadata, but I like to keep it short, data, and I will say data, so you know what I mean. From one system to another, from one data format to another, and we do all kinds of transformations, and we spend a lot of time and money and investment in all this work that actually isn't very efficient. So it's all about basically extract, transform, load procedures. And usually you use these ETL procedures using utilities or tools that are really dedicated or they belong to the systems that you buy. For instance, if you export something from Aleph, you use an Aleph exporter. You transform data in Primo using the internal Primo normalization rule stuff. And it's all proprietary. And you're dealing with lots of different data formats and tools. And you have to know, as a library, you have to have expertise and knowledge about all these different tools. And you have a couple of problems. Oh, before I go any further, I have published a link on Twitter to my slides with annotations, so you can read when you get home and read everything. And it's like in this paper printout with a lot of text. Anyway, so we do a lot of work and spend a lot of time work in something that should be readily available. That's my opinion. One of the most complicating things, if you move away from a specific system, you have invested a lot of time and work in creating a lot of transformation rules and display routines, like in Primo normalization rules, then you lose all that work and you have to do it all over again. So in my case, we're going to start looking into, finally, into our next generation successor for Aleph. And in the Netherlands, where I work, we have two options basically. It's Libraries or it is OCLC. And it might very well be that we end up moving over to OCLC because other Libris libraries in the Netherlands have done that in the recent years. This will mean not only that we have to move our back office, Aleph, to another provider or the system architecture, but also because we have Primo. This doesn't really talk with World Share Management Service, I guess. It'll be a completely different picture. We have to also go to some other discovery tool, because I don't think that Primo talks really well with Aleph. No, not Aleph. Well, it doesn't either, by the way. But okay, so this is the picture. This is the idea, and this is a picture of one of the other projects that we're doing to map all our data flows, data stores, data transformations, systems, and I know that I'm using data flow diagrams here, which is not intended to do it for this type of tools, but as you can see, it's a data maze. That's what I call my presentation that I gave a year ago. So you see all these data flows are export and import and transformation from only one data source to another data source. So for every flow, you have to have this whole mechanism in place, the transformation, export, import, etc. Wouldn't it be better if you have just one central data hub? There's the data hub. You collect all your external data flows into one data hub, transform to some global universal format, link it all together, have linked data, no redundancies, everything is deduplicated. I'm speaking about an ideal world, of course. It's not here yet. And then on the other hand, if you need it in some legacy system, move it into Primo, like you can throw it in PNX readily without having to use the Primo normalization rules, or all kinds of new services, etc. So this is what we're dreaming of, and we decided to start a pilot. The advantages, of course, would be it would be system and vendor independent. Well, sort of, because if you use a tool that you buy from another vendor or an open source community, you're dependent on that community. But it would also mean that ideally you could have just one single tool for all your data transformations. You don't need to have knowledge of Primo or of Summon or of SFX, etc. All the external systems. And migration ideally would be easier, because if you have all your data in place in your central data hub, you could probably, it would be good to just unplug Primo and, for instance, plug Summon in, or I know it's not, that would not be the case, but it would be less work, I guess. And of course, talking about elimination of redundancy. So the requirements for such a data hub, well, as I already said, it should be a central and interlinked storage with some ideal universal data format. I'm thinking RDF, maybe, I don't know. The data transformation routines should be in place. And it has to support import, export, or similar for routines for the most common, but also maybe also other data formats like we have Mark and PNX, etc. And of course, you need some options for scheduled batch processing, so you don't have to start all your transformations manually every night. So this is the pilot project that hasn't started yet. We call it CORE. Of course, we came up with the acronym before we thought of all kinds of possible action. So you can even interchange all these things, connected online registry ecosystem. Doesn't sounds nice. And our because I could have used Hub, but everybody's using Hub for everything. Within our University Library, Hub is now used for our SharePoint. I can hardly say the word. Installation. Well, let's get on with it. All right. We have chosen for a use case or business case. The one thing that we haven't managed yet is getting our special collections EAD data into Primo, because I will go into EAD later. And hopefully use some of the Aleph stuff, because we have managed to get the collection items as single objects in Aleph. But by the way, we catalog in WorldCat and we move it to Aleph and then to Primo. It's a lot of extra work. So that's the idea. We want to be able to get our collections data, put it in some central data hub, and then ready-made plug it into Primo. And hopefully with some kind of collection display like Mehmet showed us earlier today. EAD is it's short for encoded archival description. And it is what I call a, I think it's hybrid or hybrid, not sure, format, because it has two types of objects. It's a collection level. It describes a certain archival collection. And it has underneath it in a special section a very high level of high to low level of nested levels. I think go up 1 to 12, which describes all the sub collections and the end, the specific items. And you never know beforehand how many levels it goes. And I'd like to. When I first started working in the library, it was in 2003, I guess, and I saw Mark, and it scared me the hell out of me, because what is this? And I had the same feeling last year when I took a closer look at EAD. And for me, it's another example of a display format, because that's what it is. It's a display format used for storage and exchange, which doesn't work. Because, as you know, we didn't manage to get our EAD into Primo. And I know some of you have done it, but you have to sort of flatten the data first into some other format like mods. And even if it's supposed to be a standard, you have the possibility, just like in Mark, to use variations. And even also in EAD, you have rule sets, which you can adhere to or not. To make it even more complicated, until now we have EAD version 2, I think it's called version 2. And recently there was a new release in version 3 with a lot of differences. So if I start using our current EAD2 formats and put it into Primo, what will happen next year when they move it over to EAD3? I don't know. It's really complicated. Is this readable? Anyway, this is a screenshot from, not from the original, the official EAD site at Library of Congress, but EADiva. I think this is maintained by a colleague of Mark, Ruth Kitchen-Tillman. Do you know her, Mark? Yeah? Oh, no, nothing. This is... yeah,
she just started.
Yeah. This is really very accessible to understand what EAD is all about. This is just a screenshot. So you have a control section, just like in Mark. ArcDesk describes the archival constructs, and some file desk also. And it's all in XML format. Here you see an example of one of our own EAD files. This is the upper level section, and you see at the top you see related encoding Dublin core, which means is that it's used so that you can have. Let me see. I think I have a quote here in my paper. It says if only the control element is going to be mapped to a particular standard, such as marker Dublin code, this is where one should specify it. So it's there is a sort of mapping to Dublin core here. What really bugs me is that they use display elements like line break, right within one field. And this I couldn't. I've experimented with Primo normalization rules, and this just Primo doesn't recognize it. It doesn't become a space. It just disappears and it puts it together. This is one of my problems with EAD, of course. And you see here the desk rules. So this is like AACR2 or RDA. This is for archival description rules, and you can use it or not. And this is how it looks like in our homegrown collection system. You see it's all in Dutch, because that's also a problem. It's all in Dutch, not in English. This maps to the XML you saw here, and then to the right you see the things that are the lower levels that you see in this version. You see all the sub-levels. It starts with C01, the top. It can go as deep as C12, and in this case, if it has the attribute level is filed, you know it's an object and it is a description of something. And by another thing that I'm getting, it annoys me, it has a link sort of link href, but it's just not. It's just the identifier port, not the. It doesn't have an actual base URL here, and you cannot find it. You have to know it. And in this system, our developers know it, of course. And then it looks like this. A number of containers and items and screenshots or images of the actual content. So, what to do if you want to get EAD into Primo PNX? As I said, Primo PNX is a flat format. It has a PNX record for items. And where can you get the hierarchy? There is. You have to flatten the data structure, as I said, before you actually harvest it into Primo, because I don't think that normalization rules in Primo can be used to sort of, I've looked into it, to traverse the levels, etc., and see until you are at the lowest level, etc. You need all the levels as well. I managed to use the normalization rules to get the collection level into Primo. This is a screenshot of the and you see the effect of the line break there. It just puts two words together. I couldn't find a way to get it out of it. And here, another one here, Amsterdam Universiteit. No, it should be two words. But okay, this is doable, but there is no, I didn't get the items in there. Just using EAD harvest, read it into Primo and use normalization rules. So you need to something else. You see here the PNX if the line break tag is just completely gone. So you create PNX with a number of fields, whatever, it's up to you. And it shows, so you kind of, it's discoverable, the collections, so only the collections, not the items. The items though, are also in Primo because they come from Aleph, but there is no connection at all between the collection level and the items. So now I was really very happy with the announcement of the new Primo collection discovery, which Mehmet already mentioned today, where you can have a collection level sort of thing, and you can view the collection, and you get the items in a hierarchical manner. So this is now available for Ex Libris source systems, so like Rosetta and Alma-D, as far as I know. And it has been mentioned that it was also announced that it will be available for third-party other collection systems. At least it will be documented how to take care of it. What it actually does is you import your collection levels and item levels and all levels as separate PNX records, and there is a mechanism of a number of extra fields that link parent IDs and child IDs to each other. However, to actually display the hierarchical structure on the fly, you need an API call to your source system to get the hierarchical structure out of there on the fly. So this is an extra complication. And this is how it is done in an extra PNX field. I hope you can see it. Otherwise, you can look at my slide later. It has in the control section the type of item. So it's a collection, top collection or item, and then an ID link to the parent. So coming back to our data hub requirements that I mentioned earlier, we need something. We need all these things, and for having make it usable for EID in collections, you need an API that can actually. It has to expose an API that exposes the hierarchical structure internally. This is maybe a little bit more complicated. I don't know if we can do it. We have been looking at a number of tools that are available already. Maybe there's only a couple. You may know some of them. DSwarm, Kathmandu, Hydrun, the DPLA tool, and there is Supplejack Digital. And even these last two are really dedicated to these large national digital libraries. And the upper two, and there are more tools, but DSwarm and Kathmandu, they are both. We think these can be. They're both. I did get back. These are both open source tools that are available, and open enough, with some community support. So we're now at the moment we're now looking into which one of these tools we can use for starting our pilot project. So this is as far as we have got at the moment. DSwarm is an open source tool developed by the University Library in Dresden, Germany, together with a commercial company, but it is distributed as open source. You can see the diagram. It looks a lot like my own diagram, and they have two types. You can have a purely ETL version, you just transform it, or a data hub version where you store the data, and you can reuse it later for other types of systems and tools. So we now have a testing environment which was set up by these people in Dresden for us, for free. That's very, very helpful. And the Data Hub Store itself uses graph database, Neo4j, which is an interesting option, but it has some problems. And it uses for ETL for the mapping, it uses the graphical UI of Metafacture, which is developed by the German National Library. And it has a backend task processing units for the batch stuff, and it has an API. So it looks like it could fit. it looks a bit like this. You have a graphical mapping. On the left, you have our EID file, and they support a number of formats, but not EID, so this is just imported as XML. And you can map your fields to, on the other hand, they support PNX, because they have Primo, to PNX fields. So I have done this for the collection level only, until now. So this is what you would do in the Primo normalization rules, but this is in a graphical way. And the idea behind this is that not only developers, but also metadata librarians would be able to use this system. I think that's not really the case, because it's not only this, because you also use routines for transformation. This is a very simple one, of course. It's a bit like Primo, and this is simple, but you can have also things like you can do parse JSON, so you have to know JSON and regular expressions, etc. So this, in case what you can do here is what you do in Primo normalization rule set, but then in an independent platform. This works relatively well. It has these input and output formats. You see PNX is supported, but not EID, but a lot of other things. Mark, Pika, whatever. And this is the results of my, if you look closer, on the left you see the input file, and on the right the generated PNX, sort of. And you see that up here is again the line break, and here it is, you can have a routine that recognizes that and removes it and replaces it with a space. So this is already better than Primo PNX. But however, on the other hand, let's go back for a moment. This graphical user interface is a bit slow at the moment. It doesn't really work in acceptable performance. And this is only the mapping, so you have to build the whole framework of import, export, the batch processing around it, but they have tools as well. Katmandou, on the other hand, is completely command line. There is no graphic interface at all. If you like that, and lots of people like it, I would like a sort of combination of both. The graphical interface is really easy to just say, I want this to be that. And it's also an open source tool developed by 5 minutes. I have to hurry. 5 minutes. It has developed by Ghent University, Land University, Bielefeld University. It has all kinds of importers, exporters, stores. You can use MongoDB. It uses transformations, etc. Whatever you want. It supports a number of formats, but no EID and no Primo, no PNX. So that's a problem. This is how it looks like if you import EID as XML, which is XML. You see again the line break there. Oh. You can easily, on the command line, convert it to JSON this is just pure format transformation, and there's no data transformation here. What did I do here? And you can import the XML into a MongoDB store and get it out again, which is really very handy. It's all available. There's all these importers, exporters are available. And you can show it as YAML, whatever. And for the transformation, they have things like fixes. It's written in Perl, small routines. You can use split field author, mark map, and you map a mark 245 to title, etc. But you have to do this on the command line, so you have to type everything. Nothing with point and click. So this is an example of I get a mark. This is you have to trust me. The input file camel MRC is a mark file, and you say map 245 to title, and only retains field title. You get a list of only fields that have to have the name title and etc. But this is just an example. So at the moment, I'm drawing to a close. Our current project status is we are still in the exploratory phase, evaluate the tools, and we have good support from both developers communities, for instance, Thomas Gengler and Dresden, and Patrick Hochstenbach from Ghent. The problems that we have with this form at the moment is I mentioned the performance of the mapping tool. I think I'm falling asleep. I was awake late last night. So if you don't exactly understand what I'm saying, I have the same. But you can read it later. DSwarm doesn't have an EAD importer, but they're actually willing to develop one. But I think it's quite hard because the hierarchical level stuff is complicated, and it will take some time. We haven't tested yet the back end, the processing unit. For Kathmandu, the command line is really fast. It's amazing. But you need a lot to build a framework consisting of all your fixes and importers and exporters, and that's the most work. I know they have it working in production in Ghent University, so it's possible. But they don't support EAD yet, PNX yet either, but they are willing to look into it and doing. And we can also, if we choose this, we could contribute. The issues that I have with EAD, let me recapture. It's the hybrid multi-level structure, which is very problematic. It's a presentation format. And also, at the moment, at the University Library, we are starting to assessing the EAD workflows, which starts in September, which is this. Well, maybe they already started. So we don't know how this will work out. So if we start something now, we don't know if we actually do something that will be valid next year. It's very complicated. Collection discovery for non-ex libris collection in Primo isn't available yet. It's horrible. Not yet. Someone said before just today we have it working in the old UI, but now we're in limbo. Who was it? I think it was Karsten. We are waiting for the new UI, but in this case it's not the new UI, but it's the collection management tools we have. So we are not able to test it yet. So we haven't done. It's horrible, by the way. Aren't you frustrated with this talk? I am. But that's all. Thank you. That's awful.
Thank you very much, Lucas. We have time for one quick question.
I would love some pointers or
There are two questions, but can we make them really quick, please? And it's very difficult with Lucas, so Lucas, please.
Thanks. Simon Moffat from the British Library. I've got loads of questions, so I'll have to be in touch. We've done a lot of the same things with EAD. We've flattened all of our EAD. And I've drawn the same diagram with your core with my architects. And we're calling ours OMS, which isn't as good a name, and that's bad. But the one thing that I have to answer really for them is we have all of the logic for our Aleph normalizations and all our other normalizations, which we'll have to take out of Primo and reproduce using XSLT or something. Does it worry you that there's all of that work to do? And do you think you'll have to get people with different skills in order to maintain all of your normalization in the future?
No, I think it's exactly the other way around. As I explained, we need to have a number of people, and you have expertise in all kinds of different tools that you use for all kinds of normalization and transformations. And the idea is, if you have only one data hub where you do all that work, you only do one tool. Everybody can use the same tools for all their other work. So I hope that it will be easier. But of course, it takes a lot of time to get there. But it's interesting to hear that you are doing similar work. So I would like to talk to you. Okay.
Lucas, Dave here from the State Library of Queensland.
Are you from Queensland? But as large as Europe, yeah?
Yeah, that one. We've been working on EADs too, and having the same sort of problems. But where are you maintaining EADs? What application, or you just?
Oh well, that's another department. But as far as I know, at the moment, we have a special collections schedule or archivists. They type their EADs. I may be wrong, but I heard that they type them in Word, and then they are imported in our homegrown EAD system, and they're stored as actual EAD files. And it's exposed to, in this system, by using a couple of tools that will be replaced probably next year. So it's if our developers die or something, or even worse, they just leave. No, I'm just kidding. We have a problem with maintaining that. So. But it does its job at the moment, and we have someone that was close to retirement who does all the EAD work.
We use Excel and transform it, but
What?
We're using Excel and transforming, but it's...
Well, the problem at the moment is also that I work in a different department than the others, but we're moving to a more collaborative situation. So we are looking into talking to each other now. The team that is working on this has people from both departments. So anyway.
I don't have a question. I have more of a comment.
Shoot.
At the Getty, we have Alma. We don't have Aleph, so I'm not sure how Aleph works. But what we have is we have MARC records for all our EADs in Alma. And then we keep our EADs in another system, in another server that we get through Archivist Toolkit. And so what I do is I pull down all the EADs and I insert in the EAD header the Alma MMS ID from the equivalent MARC record. And then I've set up norm rules in Primo not to index all the fields, just the ones we need, including that field for the MMS ID. And then I just run the pipe and load them in. And what it does is it indexes the full text of the entire EAD. I don't need all the fields indexed, just a handful, so I can, and it dedupes on them. And so we have another site, or our collection inventories and finding aids, and you can go all the way down to the bottom of the EAD or wherever you want to in there, stick it in a Primo and you'll find it. And it'll actually highlight where it found the EAD, you know, where in the EAD it found what you were looking for. So you might be able to do that with Alma if you had a equivalent unique identifier for and you had MARC records in your catalog.
We have to look at these things. We don't have Alma, we have Aleph, but I don't want to start doing things differently in Aleph before we know what we will be doing next year, Alma or World Share Management. But it's good to know that there are institutions that have similar problems and different solutions. So I might be talking to you as well later.
Great, thank you. This is good. Let's establish a development network around this.
Okay. Are we done?
Yes, we are done. Can we just give a
you.
big round of applause to Lucas? Thank you. And last but not least, please accept my sincere thanks to all of you for being so patient. And also Theo has some final remarks that he would like to mention. So Theo?
I would like to cheat on you all, in fact. So without remarks. I would like to play a little game, can I?
Yeah, you're very welcome to. And just one quick thing, while Theo's doing that, I'm doing a randomizer here. So there are some gifts for the presenters, so please don't leave without collecting them.
And the game I want to play with you is the next. I can do either a silly talk, or I can do some presentation, if you like. And I think you should, after I've bothered you with more than 3 days of get your voting slips, you can vote now. Who wants to leave and who wants another presentation for about 10, 15 minutes? I should state it differently. Raise your hand if you want this presentation. Some saw it, and others didn't. So, a restful handshake between Aleph and Wolfgang. And I have to tell you, this is in fact not my presentation. Our developer, Edu Hakanic, should present this here, but he has had surgery in his ear last month, and it's not very healthy to fly then, so he couldn't come to Trondheim. What's our situation? As Lucas already explained to you, we in the Netherlands have this silly move to go to OCLC, and we are still on Aleph, luckily, and we are tendering for a new ILS, perhaps within 2 years, but we already are now cataloging in WorldCat. So WorldCat is for our collections, the system of truth. So that's where the metadata is and is being maintained and is being downloaded or synchronized to Aleph. All our transactions are in Aleph. And in Utrecht we have this special strategy where we say we don't do local discovery. So we don't have Primo local, we have Primo central. We don't have WorldCat local, we have WorldCat generic. And we send our patrons for all of their discoveries to generic discovery tools. So, except for one, and that is the Aleph OPAC. Because at this moment, we cannot rely on any other discovery tool for the print material that is in our Aleph OPAC. And the one thing that we are considering is because we, and it was a project that has ended, or more or less not ended, but executed a few months ago, that all of our metadata is now in WorldCat. So we could potentially now rely on WorldCat discovery. But there are a few problems still, because when you move over your data, there's matching and merging going on, and then you end up with not the ideal situation. But if we are going to migrate our discovery to WorldCat, then we don't have any real-time availability no more, because people that are searching in WorldCat, they find material from Utrecht, and they immediately, of course, want to see if it's available or not. Well, normally in WorldCat, you can only see if we have an item, but if it's available, is it on loan or any other status? So to do that, we first thought about the possible connections that you can make between Aleph and WorldCat via Z3950. But we soon found out that is far too difficult. And if you wanted to provide extra logic, then you need to rely on the consuming side, which is WorldCat, and that is not a good thing to do. So what we did was we built a REST man in the middle to get the real status. It's a facade, and it's I have given this presentation earlier this week, and I refer to Rich Wenger's presentation in Oxford, Good Fences Make Good Neighbors. It's the same architecture. It means that you are not allowing external applications to use the Aleph APIs. You are building a facade in the middle, and the facade receives the standard REST calls and translates them into Aleph API language. And backwards also. The facade receives from Aleph the answer, translates it, maybe adds a little bit extra logic to it, and then passes it back to the caller, which is WorldCat in this case. Here are the requirements. For developers, the requirements are in fact more understandable than the audience that I have shown it this week, but it's pretty straightforward and clear, I think, for you. And our REST facade can provide various output, XML, JSON, or HTML. And then it becomes tricky because WorldCat is so very state-of-the-art that it consumes HTML based on simple scraping. Okay. Really, they can't do anything else. But, okay, it offers you also something. As long as you are able to give them a stable HTML output, and you do your own logic before, then you are still able to give them the kind of information that you need to be displayed in WorldCat. Also, you need to test this because you want to test either your facade and also how many calls can your Aleph server handle, and are you not overloading your Aleph server. For instance, you could do it at 2 points in WorldCat. You could do it on the result list, and that will cause many API calls, of course. But you could also say, no, we don't do it at the result list. We only do it at the full title page. And that will lower the number of API calls. This is the way we do the stress test. And you can use any other tool, of course, for this. But this is the way we do it. And now for the demo. This is, and I skipped the searching because that's not important. And this is the title list. Here you also see the availability. Yes? Here it is, on loan and available. And I choose this title. So here you see the availability. So as it is displayed in WorldCat, this is what you see is the check to our test server, to our Aleph test server. And if only we change that in our facade to talk to Aleph production server, then we're done. So WorldCat doesn't know anything about our test server or production server. It simply calls the facade. So I can see here, okay, this one is on loan. I will not go to the library because there's no need to go to the library. It's on loan, and well, I can place a hold. Hey, Christine, it works. Yesterday, this didn't work because I was so stupid. I forgot to test, and our Aleph test server is normally not open for calls from outside Utrecht, but of course now it is. So immediately, I also tweaked a little bit. I'm already logged in. I skipped the whole login procedure because you're not interested in that. And so now I can place another request. And the other thing I would like to show you is if I choose this title. Here you see it's available. Here you also see our Aleph test server is being called, and it's much slower than our Aleph production server. It's even so slow that I hope. It's not available, it says. That is stupid. No. Let me test something else. Yeah, our own API limit, you know. Checking online access, I think there's something going on here, not at us, but at. Okay, here it is. It's available. Stupid that it checks again. Now it's available. I say I want to place a hold, make a request. Now I have to log in again. Okay, I did the login because in my browser I was already logged in because we use federated login. So this is in Dutch, but believe me, this is the pickup sublibrary, and this is the date that I do not want to have it anymore. So I now made the reservation or the hold. And I want to refresh this. And you see it's on loan. Immediately you see it in the result list. And it's not on loan. I made only the request. But that's the logic that we do in the facade. You know, it's not interesting for the pattern to very detailed see the availability status and the kind of information that we give there. It's now still on test, so public department can still decide whatever it should be. I don't know what's happening with my computer anymore, but yes, okay, thank you. In fact, this was the demo, and this is the GitHub archive where you can find all the details of this software development. It says EDUH, which is Edu Hakadic, the name of the developer. That's the presentation. I don't think anybody has questions about this. This is very simple and straightforward. So
yes, I have about 10 questions here. I think just because we are all looking forward to a drink, we will not ask any questions at this time. Plus, there's some other things I have to say. First of all, thank you very much, Theo. That was very, very good. We have now done the randomization test. And we have some small Trondheim-based books and T-shirts that we want to give. Ex Libris has asked, actually, is there any Ex Libris staff in here? Good. So very first thing I want to say, very first thing I wanted to say was actually they asked me to take pictures, but we all want to go home now, so who cares? And secondly, considering how many times we've seen on the presentation slides, oh, this is a good way to do this is a good way to replace RTA, this is a good way, maybe we should develop our own library management system. Just take over. So very quickly, just the names who've got something, please come over and I will afterwards give you the gifts. Jennifer, Christian, Alan, Mehmet, Karsten, Dean, Matthias, Joan, and Lucas have all won something. Sorry about everyone else. Not that it's great anyway. Yeah, I know. Last but not least, but it's quite an important thing. Developer community is because of developers, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed at least part of it. I think that's very important, because we will never relate to all of this. We will have certain products, certain kind of capabilities, but it's just supporting each other in this process that's very important. And the more we can do that, the more this community will flourish, and the more productive outputs we can see in the future as well. I also want to thank the local organization committee, and especially the amazing technical support we've had throughout. Also the hotel for their facilities, also for IGeLU for supporting this Developers Day in the first place, and for Ex Libris actually for coming along and talking about their future models and their work in this domain as well. I know they're not here, but I will pass on thanks to them afterwards as well. Last but not least, the coordinators of Analytics Special Interest Group, Corey, John, the coordinator of Linked Open Data Special Interest Working Group. It is a mouthful, you have to admit that. Corey, and the coordinator of Interoperability Working Group, Mehmet. Without them, this would have not been possible. So thank you, a big, big thank you to all of them as well.
Let's not forget yourself, Masoud.
It's fine. And one last thanks to each and every one of you who have presented or discussed anything today. I think that's very important, and it is still a brave step to come over up here and actually talk about something you've done, because you've got, or theoretically done in Lucas's case. The idea is, if you can find a good, friendly environment where you can come along and talk about things, that's what we are trying to provide here. If you have any feedback, you can pass it on to me or any of the coordinators of the group. I will send a really, really, really short survey after this. It will be really short, so please do fill it. It will be very, very useful. And again, thank you to all of you for being here. and for taking part in this. Without you, this would have not been possible. So I really genuinely mean that, and I'm very happy to see this kind of platform going from 90 odd participants last year to now 150 plus. And next year, we are hoping that this would be even bigger. And by bigger, I don't mean just numbers. I would mean by every standard, basically. So thank you. Enjoy your drinks. Enjoy your evening. And enjoy your discussions. We have these rooms till 6, so feel free to have further discussions if you want to. Thank you.